Kind of funny story. I remember going for an interview. My dad was like, all right, you got to get a job now. You're finished school. You got to go get a real job. And now, to put some context in this, my dad was in the Army for 26 years. He worked for General Colin Powell. He worked for President George W. Bush in the White House. He was John McCain's chief of staff. So imagine me going, my dad's like, hey, what are you going to do with your life? I'm going to sell ads in the phone book. So I remember coming home and I had offers from a bank, a traditional bank, which is now Bank of America. It was Nations Bank at the time. And
should have taken that one. Should have taken that one. What are you thinking?
So my dad was like, all right, so you got this bank over here, and I don't even understand what you're talking about selling phone book ads. I'm like, no, Dad, you don't understand. I'm going to be rich. Like, I'm going to sell phone book ads. It's going to be amazing. And he's like, no, you're going to go work for the bank. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go sit in that bank 30 years and die and they give me a pen when I'm done. Like, not happening. Yeah. So my dad was not happy with me when I took the job. And still to this day, we're playing golf on the weekends. And he's like, what do you do again? Like, what, you sell websites? I'm like, yeah, Dad, that's what I do. So it's been a long way since then, and I don't think he's ever forgiven me.
Every time you miss a ball or something, he's probably like, man, if you were a banker, you'd have more time to work on that swing.
That's right. He's like, you'd have a really great handicap if you just went into banking. But it's worked out okay.
I remember, and this may have been later in life, this may have been around the same time, but I remember riding with you one day. And no shit, this was like the best sale that I've ever, like, it still stands out in my mind, the best I've ever seen somebody turn a sale around. We pull up and we're in the street and you're like, let me go knock this door. And Daryl may have been in the car. You may have been in the passenger seat. And I remember you getting out
was in Minneapolis. I think this was in Minneapolis.
It may have been. I remember you knocking on this guy's door and you're just backing up. Your hands are in the air. He's screaming at you, getting up in your face, and you're backing up like, oh, shit, this guy's going to hit me. This guy's going to shoot me. And you back all the way up, and you're still talking. I can tell you're not shutting up. You're going for it. And this guy's screaming at you. You back all the way up to the curb, but you don't step in the street. And then you start moving back forward towards the door. And I can see his demeanor. He starts calming down. And you guys get all the way back up to the door, and you go inside. And you come back out and you sold the damn job. And that was when it clicked. It's like, Anthony may be the best salesman I've ever met in my entire life. This guy wanted to kill you. Yeah. Do you remember that sale?
Yeah,
is this just in my head?
That was in Minneapolis. I remember that.
So is there something in how you talk to people, in how you deal with people, that you're able to do that? Is there some secret to your sales sauce?
Well, so I don't really sell residential, obviously, anymore. I'm more trying to train the sales team and work on, building the company, not so much working in it as much. But I still do like to go out and do the bigger sales, like the condo association, stuff like that. I just try to be personable and just talk to them rather than trying to sell them and just build the relationship. So, I mean, that's what I teach my guys, and that's how, we do all of our sales, is just work on building the relationship. And I don't remember the specific conversation, obviously, of that sale because it was quite a few years ago. But in general, it's just building relationships and then trying to provide value. In talking to them, they can understand usually if you're a true expert or just, somebody pretending to be an expert, and just the short little things that you might be saying and talking to them. So, yeah, just really building the relationships is key.
So Rick Daly is almost 6'6", 250, played at 270 for UCLA as a tight end, then for the Broncos for a short period of time. I mean, this is kind of the ultimate collegiate athlete, okay?
Yeah, you're a pro trial attorney. He's a pro football player.
I'm a debater, okay? Yeah. So we came together from two very different paths. And I met Rick when I was in law school, and I'm a few years behind him. But at the time, I was dating a girl. I was in college. I was dating a girl that was a law student, and she was working during the summer at this law firm. And she came home one day and she's like, I need to tell you, there's a guy that I work with that's been kind of hitting on me. And, he's real flirty and kind of inappropriate. And I'm like, I'm going to whip that guy's ass. Okay. Well, he's kind of a big guy. And I was like, I don't care. And so at the next event where all the summer clerks are present, I show up with her as a date. And I see Rick, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not going to whip his ass. I'm going to just be really upset.
Definitely a big guy.
Rick and I get to talking. And, turns out he loves to fish. He's a great guy. And we end up buying a fishing boat, I guess my second year of grad school. And I'll bet Rick and I fished freaking every other weekend for the last 2.5, 3 years of my grad school career. Wow. And it was great. So
you're driving from Texas to the coast?
Oh yeah. From Austin, I would leave on Wednesdays or Thursdays from Austin. We'd keep a boat down in Freeport. We'd go 120 miles offshore in a boat that should have, we had like a 26-foot center console with like extra fuel tanks and bean bags in the back. I mean, I'm talking idiotic stuff. Okay. And we'd spend the night and drive it in the dark, and we just wanted to catch the biggest fish. And so Rick and I really formed a friendship around fishing and just hanging out. Then we ended up doing a lot of hunting together. We just were outdoorsmen. And he started his career at a different firm than I did, but over the years, we continued to fish, but more importantly, he'd call me when he'd have a case that was going to trial, and he'd be like, you want to come down here and try this case with me? And we probably tried about a dozen cases together before we even thought about starting a firm together. We always did great. We always won our trials. We had a great time. And as young guys, we were like, one day we ought to start a firm together. And we were in one another's weddings. And so Rick was a friend for, 15 plus years before we even thought about, practicing law together. Best friends. So it wasn't.
That's huge. I mean, you're friends first. Well, first enemies, adversaries for a minute. Very, very brief.
He was. Okay, we were arch enemies.
Oh man, well, I was my dad was a plumber way back in Indiana back in the day, right? So every summer I dug ditches and hauled pipe and did all the garbage work that all the plumbers helpers did, and I was like, "There's no way in God's green earth I'm going to be ever get back in this construction thing," right? So my highfalutin self went to Indiana University for 4 years, and then I got my 2.0 grade point average, my little political science degree, and got out of college, and lo and behold, my first job was with a contractor. So I literally jumped back in, and here we are, right? I told myself I'm never going to do it for a living, but once you're in, right? So yeah, my first insurance claim was 1992. And I remember it was off a fire scanner back in the day, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. They're like, "Hey, go out and here's an address. This lady has had a fire. Go knock on her door and see if she needs our help." I'm like, "All right, whatever." No idea, right? So I literally knocked on. It was I'll never forget. It was a State Farm fire claim. I knocked on the door. I did whatever I did, and she said yes, and Lily signed an authorization form right then and there. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then it kind of just took off from there. And it's just been, ups. We've all had ups and downs, ins and outs, roundabouts. But it's this business we're in is a very good. I like it because we can be a good guy, right? We can do the right thing, help people, and I think that's why we're all in it for at the end of the day. I mean, the money comes and goes, bro. We all make it, lose it, keep it, whatever. But helping people and businesses get back on their feet is kind of the neat thing that I think we're all kind of ingrained in as a community. So, yeah, but grew up in Indiana, got my degree, and then here we are.
I could never see Jack Hanks, the plumber. I don't think I could envision it, man.
Dude, it was a lot of work. I'm not gonna. Those pipes are heavy, bro. Especially up in basements, 3 stories, and yeah, I worked my tail off. But that's one thing I give my father a lot of credit is the work ethic, man. I think not to brag, but I think that sets us apart from a lot of other firms. Is we all just work hard. We work hard, and we grind. We're not afraid to grind, and hard work is okay, right? And it's not for the lighthearted what we do, and I think that's been ingrained in me. And then our whole team is the same way. You learn how to work hard. That's you can't buy that or train that.
No.
I have an odd story, brother. This is an odd story, but so I grew up in a small Southern Colorado, 700 people, right? Just rural community, and I grew up on a farm and ranch. And I had every intention of because literally all my family, except for one guy, all my family was like farmers, ranchers, or truck drivers, right? They all
the farmer.
Yeah. So I had every intention, I'm going to be a farmer, rancher, drive a truck, all those things. And, did all that, from when I was a little kid all the way till 18. And I had a cousin that my dad had always kind of taken care of. He was kind of had a few issues, but my cousin, to the typical roofer story, my cousin went and sold a job to the local sheriff, got a check, for the down payment. At this time, 30 years ago, the whole roof was probably like $3,000, but he got a check, spent it on crack cocaine, got arrested because, he took the check from the local
for the sheriff of all people. There's one person you don't want to scam. It's the fucking sheriff.
It was the sheriff, brother. So he scammed the sheriff, gets arrested. My dad bails him out of jail and was like, hey, you're going to go make this right. I'll go buy the material. I'll send my son, me over to help you out. So I went with my cousin. I'd never been on a roof before. Went with my cousin, put this sheriff's roof on and fell in love with it. And I'll be honest, part of the reason I fell in love with it was because we sat on the roof all day and drank beer and smoked weed. And I was like, holy shit, this is like the coolest job ever.
Typical white roofer story, right? Yeah.
I was that guy. So I fell in love with roofing, got out of farming and ranching and driving semis. And I was a roofer and fell into it that way 31 years ago.
Wow. So, that's impressive.
Yeah.
31 years.
I installed for the first 15 years of that. Ended up in a drug rehab center because, I followed my cousin's footsteps basically. And, moved to Denver, went to treatment in Denver, and I never left. And I just started working in Denver and kind of had to rebuild my whole life. And, I'm at where I am today.
The way that I look at the way that I approach roofing now and that I have this year is the same way that I approached becoming the best in my eyes at wrestling when I did that, and then becoming the best at wakeboarding. And obviously, I'm not talking like best in the world, but I'm talking good enough to win nationals and good enough to get third at Reno Worlds and go undefeated at the national team trials. And it was the same process that I used for those that I use for this. And it's like, surround yourself with people who are way better than you and take everything that you can from them and bring it into your system and then go outwork those people. Yeah. And, I grew up doing it wrestling. I was competing with kids now who are in college, D1 wrestling, like doing insane, making a career out of it, making a ton of money, being the best. And those were the kids that I surrounded myself with then, competed with them, learned with them, got my butt handed to me by them and, in the practice room. And that made me really good. It made me hungry. I wasn't comparing myself to people worse than me. I was always looking at those people at the top and trying to figure out what do I need to do to get there? So then when I turned 16 and moved to Florida, because I had this dream that now I wanted to be a professional wakeboarder, I moved in with the guy who was number one in the world, Nick Rappa. He still is. Best wakeboarder, arguably, of all time. I moved in with him. I took his schedule onto myself. I took his training program and made it my own. I started practicing the way he does and training the way he does and eating the way he does and sleeping. And, with that, I was able to progress really quickly. A lot of the guys I was competing with had been training and trying to be pro since they were 7, 8, 10 years old. And I had been doing it since I was 16. Right?
Yeah.
So I had 6 or 7 years of a gap that I missed. So I was having to crunch it all into 3 or 4 years to be where I was at. And now it's the same thing with this, right? I'm surrounding myself. Obviously I'm blessed to have a few people around me that are really good at this. My dad, the other founders of the company, people who are top of the sales boards. I get to go travel around with them and learn. But really what I've in my experience, if you can genuinely be curious and ask somebody why they're great at what they do, they want to share that with you.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's that they want to help or they want to feel like the man who has it all figured out.
Yeah, they will talk about themselves. Yep.
Yeah, they will help you, and they will tell you exactly why they do great. If you just ask the question, but most people are too scared to be like, "Hey, man, what do you do that works?"
Yeah, just shut the hell up and listen. That's all people have to do, right?
Exactly.
Because it's like, dude, that's the thing. It's like when you learn to door knock and you're there and you're doing it properly. So like after I got done canvassing, I was in school. I was going to school for music. Got done with everything. Once I got done with music, it really became basically just a part-time gig. And then after, I decided to go full-time, I didn't even end up going full-time with the company I was canvassing for.
Yeah.
I went full-time with another company because my mom's friend left.
Oh.
And she was like, no, don't go work. She's like, no, don't go work for them, all the chatter. And so I was like, okay. So I went and worked for another roofing company. And it was the same spiel where, I went out with a guy for 2 weeks, showed me the ropes, all this stuff. And, the first day he's, sitting there knocking doors and he knocks on the door and, we get up on the roof, we do the inspection. He's like, it's really just that simple. I was like, I got you. I was like, I canvassed for about 4 years for another company. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, well then, go ahead, Mr. Canvasser. Let me see what you got. And the next 3 doors, bro, I'll never forget. The next 3 doors, knocked on the door, got the inspections, watched him do the closes because I hadn't closed.
Yeah,
I was just
first time I've seen it, right?
Once we closed 3 in a row, all 3 neighbors. And once we got done on the 3rd neighbor, he's like, okay, you can definitely get in the door. Now you've seen me close. Let me see if you can close. On the 4th door, we got all 4 in a row, and I closed the 4th one. And he looked at me. He's like, okay. He's like, I'm just going to go to the next street. You just keep signing up the day.
Keep on going. Man, that's really cool.
Just keep on going. He's like, whatever you're doing is working. He's like, go for it. But it's like, I also look back at it as like, without the experience of canvassing, I never would have been comfortable getting on the roof.
Yeah.
Because the beginning part of the pitch, the hardest part is getting on the roof.
Yeah.
Once you get off the roof and you can prove everything, you've got your documentation, and you're sitting there showing the homeowner like, hey, look, this is what you got.
It sells itself. Right? I mean, this is roofing, guys. It's not rocket science. It's barely a sale. It's barely a sale.
And everybody's always going to need a roof.
Yep.
And everybody's always going to need a roof.
When the storm, I met what's his name? That boxer, short guy.
Oh, Mayweather.
Mayweather. That's right.
Short guy. That's how you explain Mayweather. Hey. It's funny how we perceive people. Mayweather, the short guy. Yeah.
I always thought he was kind of a bigger dude, like stature-wise, high, like tall.
Yeah,
and he
you
just
see these people on TV.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's like this to me.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he's that short. I always see him like next to his bodyguards on television.
Yeah.
His bodyguards are so big. So
yeah.
kind of whatever. But I'm not a very tall guy.
So
right.
One question that I asked him, the only question that I asked him was, as an aspiring millionaire, because I'm not yet, but I want to be, what one piece of advice would you give me? And he said, that's an awesome question. What I would do is I would treat life as a river, and you're walking through this river of life. And each opportunity is a stepping stone, and you step on those stones. Now, each opportunity is not going to be for you. So if that opportunity fails, that's okay. Just jump onto the next stone, but keep moving. Because the moment that you stop moving is when you fail.
Wow. That's profound. I would not have thought something like that's coming out of Mayweather's mouth. Right?
I wouldn't have either. He gained so much respect from me after that.
No way, you did for me just now. I was always a big fan of Mayweather. How do you not? Right? You either love him or you hate him. And I do laugh at like the people that take shots at him and how his intelligence and
the first time I ever
completely illiterate. But this guy's coming out here with profound things. I'm like, that's a great way to describe it.
But I think to look back, all the very multi-layered, where you can't even see what the deck system is, built up, layer on top of course, those are fun because the the line item goes up. But I love the dynamic ones to where you have to bring in crews like cranes. Actually, I'll tell you, my favorite one was working with D&G Roof Systems out of Texas.
Texas.
Man, great people. We did a downtown Fort Worth build right on Main Street. The insurance wanted to only pay 40-something grand. And granted, it's a small, little mod bit roof.
Yeah.
But it's all the way up at the top of the damn building, downtown, which means we got to shut down the actual downtown. We have to get a barricades, traffic whole, plan of, bringing guys to, stop traffic whenever the big crane comes in, because it's not just a regular crane. It's got to be the giant crane, because we're going up, and then over, which of course, the math of that gets crazy of, can it handle those multiple thousand pounds?
Yeah.
Of, it's not just going up, but now it's got to go over. So those dynamic ones are scary as hell. It's butt puckering. If one thing goes wrong, multiple people are going to die. Those are so scary. But that one right there, afterwards, is this sense of accomplishment. So you step away and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was a part of that. That was dynamic. That was cool. That was some exhausting. Your brain is just always moving, problem solving every moment, it seems like. So I'd say that downtown Fort Worth one was a really great one. And then there in Tulsa, we did a ton in West Tulsa. And they're just those old big roofs out there in the industrial complexes out there. There's a lot of discontinued products out there. There's a lot of degraded, dilapidated stuff. So a lot of care, a lot of machines, a lot of safety OSHA stuff's required. So those usually end up being my favorite. I, hate them when it's happening because they're scary and there's
it's stressful.
So many things that are riding on you as a project manager. But when they're done, you have a lot of appreciation.
Oh yeah.
So we do have the Facebook group, Level the Playing Field. It's been going for 7 years now. We have 23,000 people. Wow. Oh, 26. We just hit 26. I forgot. I can't even remember how many it is. Yeah. And it's all organic, because I wouldn't even know how to do. It's just to fill it up with people, except organic. I wouldn't know how to do it anyway.
Group. To me, it's the only real group. Everything else is like filled with bots and stuff like that. Not to hate on the other groups. The bots chase, they follow, but yours is actually real. Like the people in there are real, asking real questions, and there's so much value in there. You could essentially start in the business tomorrow and then just go straight to Level the Playing Field and learn everything you know to master the industry.
Most people don't know this. You can go to the search feature and you can type in any word or phrase, and you have an entire education. And you read all the questions that are in that subject. Let's say decking. And you read all the posts about decking, and then you read the answers, and you eat the chicken, you throw away the bones, because there's some people in there that don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. But they sound like they do.
Obviously. And about 1% are probably truly experts. But 1% of 26,000 people is 260 people. 260 subject matter experts in one place. They will answer your questions for free. Because they just want to help out people in the industry.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That's legacy. That's what everybody's looking for.
And the Lord just blessed us. I mean, if God hadn't filled it up with 26,000 people, it would be Tony and me.
Hey, I would have jumped in there.
Facebook group between each other.
I would have been the fanboy, right?
And so, but that's what we do.
That's awesome, man.
On a claim our biggest claim to date. I'll definitely touch on that one. And you're familiar with the contractor, but it was back in 2011, I believe. It was on a chocolate factory. It was an old IHOP that was converted into a chocolate factory.
Okay, Charlie.
Had a residential shingle on it, right? Well, it was a chocolate factory right before Valentine's Day, so they had a boatload of inventory. Pop-up thunderstorm happens in the state of Florida. Of course, they're trying to tarp the job. I mean, they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, trying to tarp the job. But I mean, let's be realistic. That wind gets to blowing at 30, 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. It can get hard to get that tarp to stay. For one, to get it to get the tarp down, but to get the tarp to stay throughout the night as well. Well, of course, some of that aspect of that tarp failed. It ended up being a $1.3 million claim. So again, that was considered an open roof claim. because of it was a beautiful day. A pop-up thunderstorm happened, and they try to mitigate the damages. But again,
is that similar to an act of God policy, like a hail, wind, fire, flood? Right?
Exactly. It's a pop-up thunderstorm. No one saw it coming, but it happened. And there's liabilities there. And the contractor was held responsible for that. That was a $1.3 million later. We settled that claim.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll give you another little short story about people going out of business. This was a contractor I met probably 4 or 5 years ago at a conference. He never ended up being my client. I think for this reason, he was working on a car dealership in the state of Oklahoma. And if anybody knows anything about Oklahoma, it gets a little windy up there. So he's doing a spray application on the car dealership, minding his own business. He's doing a spray application. Well, he gets off the ladder, gets off the property, and the dealership owner is just dog cussing him. Going in on this guy, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was doing the spray application and damaged about 200 some odd vehicles in that car dealership. Well, that contract had an overspray exclusion.
Ooh.
So again, you talk about going out of business. That was 4 or 5 years ago, and I have not heard back from this.
I haven't seen him.
So I hope I hope he's around. I've actually ran into one of his employees 2 years ago at a conference, and he's like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And we talked about it, but he didn't even know whatever happened to that guy either. So again, I don't say these stories to scare people, but these are real life situations that I've seen happen because maybe they didn't know what they were buying. Maybe they didn't do the homework on the policy. Or maybe just flat out didn't know, or a pop-up thunderstorm happened.
When was your first commercial deal? When did you get into commercial?
Probably about 4 years ago was our first large commercial deal. We've done commercial, smaller roofs, here and there throughout our 10 years. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we got a large commercial roof. And you got to get one to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You really do. And then it's mainly about portfolio. It's about normally when you're going to a commercial roofer, well, which ones have you done? Yeah. And when you can show them you've done commercial roofing, then it's an easier sell. And it's a trust thing. So it's getting into it's the hard part. But after you get into it, there's more commercial roofing than people know what to do with. I am very happy of the situation we're in where commercial roofers or commercial clients are calling us saying, hey, we want you to come look at our roof.
Yeah.
So I'm not actively going out knocking commercial clients. It's the relationships you make with the right people.
Yeah, that's perfect. I always say if you want to get into commercial, you have to have 3 things, right? It's the 3 Ps. Professionalism. Right. You got to look the part, act the part. You got to be able to be in those rooms and make those relationships. Yeah. And then portfolio. Yeah. It's chicken and egg. You got to be, because they're going to want to see what you've done.
And they want to see what you've done and what products you've installed. And normally, if you got a building that's larger than their building, you got the deal.
Yeah, there you go.
And you're obviously the competition that we've been showing up against is it's laughable. If you just answer your phone, I hate to say that.
It is.
We answer our phone and we do what we're going to say we're going to do. And it's easy.
Yeah. And then the next one I would say is production.
Yeah.
You can go out and do those other P's and you can sell it.
Anybody can sell something.
But if you can't build it, then you're a little screwed. So it's the 3 Ps.
And we can build any roof. That's one good thing is like we have a construction background. So do I.
Yeah.
And my dad and a lot of our team members, a lot of our sales reps. We don't have very many rookie sales reps. All of our people on our team are very well educated in all aspects of the job, not just a salesman.
So when you say you could build it, like you could get out there and actually build that roof yourself.
Me and my dad, we can build pretty much anything possible. I'm not going to do that. We pay good people.
There's levels to this shit, and you've reached the highest.
But I can get on a roof and I can tell them, hey, this isn't done right.
Yeah.
And then that's the main thing you can do, because as a sales rep, you can get on a roof and everything looks great. And they have no clue that the welds are too hot or they didn't put enough ISO to meet the code, or you know what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that go into the actual production of the job.